Hey Yorba Linda, on today's Spotlight Business interview, I'm going to be talking to the owner of one of the most popular and well-known restaurants within Yorba Linda, and the way he came up with his name is something you don't want to miss. If this is your first time watching an episode, hi, I'm Josh Alexander, your local Yorba Linda real estate agent as well as host of Discover Yorba Linda, your one-stop shop for all things Yorba Linda. So whether you already live in this city or are thinking of moving here, if you want to stay up to date on what's going on, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So on today's episode, I'm sitting down with George, the owner of Blue Agave. So this is one of the most well-known restaurants within Yorba Linda. They've been around forever, so we're not going to only talk about what type of food they have, but also how he came up with the name, a little bit of history surrounding himself and the business, so you're not going to want to miss this episode. Let's go ahead and get into it. Hey everybody, thanks again for joining us. So today I am here with George, the owner of Blue Agave. George, thanks for having me in here and thanks for joining me today.
It's my pleasure. Hi everyone and welcome to Blue Agave.
So the first thing I always want to talk about when we interview businesses around Yorba Linda is I want to know a little bit more about you. So the owner themselves, how not only did you come to own this place, but just a little bit of background about yourself, hobbies, what you like to do. Just give the viewers a little better idea of exactly who you are.
Sure. Well, I come from the restaurant business. My parents owned a couple of Mexican restaurants, one named El Matador Restaurant in Costa Mesa on Newport Boulevard. And so I grew up in the business. So as time went on, I always wanted to own my own business. So I was fortunate enough to work at Las Brisas for several years, cook there, and learn the different types of style of Latin food and Mexican food. And as I was growing there, I kind of said to myself, you know what? I think I can do this on my own. I had the pleasure of working with Pepe Lopez and David Wilhelm and several other just terrific chefs. So as time went on, I was able to just open a small little restaurant in Sunny Hills that went off really well. I was approached by a couple of gentlemen who were really good friends of mine about doing a nightclub. And I convinced them that I would do a jazz club because I'm a musician and I love guitar and I love jazz music.
Okay.
So it ended up being in Costa Mesa, and it was named Mucho Gusto Jazz Bar and Latin Grill. And I hate to age myself here, but this was in the early 90s.
Okay.
And so we had great musicians come in, Wilton Felder and the Crusaders, David Benoit, Boney James, and big bands, and Pancho Sanchez. And it really took off well to the point where they wanted to expand it and they wanted to do it on their own. So they bought me out. Okay. And I was more than happy to be able to get a lot of money.
Yeah.
And be able to play basketball every day. That was my other passion. I used to play basketball every day. So for a couple of years, I played basketball and kind of lent my money to friends, which I probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And this location was one of them. It was to a friend of mine named Marty, who put together a restaurant named Panhandler. Okay. And I had mentioned to him, you're putting a Brazilian restaurant in Yorba Linda. I didn't even know where Yorba Linda was. Okay. So he put it together. It didn't work out for him at all. And a couple of years later, my wife said, we need to get our money back. And so I came and talked to Marty, and he mentioned to me that he couldn't. And I mentioned to him that, hey, let me take the restaurant over and I'll give it a go at it and see if I can turn it into something good. Converted it into what it is now.
Okay.
And I was actually going to name it Mucho Gusto. And then I got a letter from my old partner telling me, you can't do that, you can't do that. So I was actually at Margaritaville, which is a restaurant in Newport Beach. It's not there anymore, but it was one of my hangouts. And I was sitting there and I just got stinking drunk at the bar. But I leaned down and looked down at a bottle of Herradura
Okay.
and it said Blue Agave. And I noticed it didn't have a trademark.
Ah.
So I went to my, back then you had payphones still.
Yep.
Cell phones were only for rich people. So I went back to my car, slept in my car because I couldn't drive. Next morning, called my attorney, and he says, "Oh no, that has to be taken." It wasn't.
Wow.
So I trademarked the name,
Okay.
so I own that name, and thus everything turned into Blue Agave instead of Mucho Gusto. And I put together the menu with an assortment of different types of flavors, some Latin American, some Southwest, and then typical tacos and taquitos. So I try to give everything a twist. I put it together with the notion of put it together, sell it, and move on to the next project.
Okay.
Fell in love with the city. Fell in love with the city. I had never been here before, found out how pretty it was, the rolling hills, the people were so down to earth compared to where I was coming from. I was brought up at Newport Beach, Costa Mesa. That's where I was brought up, given my dad's restaurant. It was on Newport Boulevard. And decided just to make it my home. When my sister-in-law moved over, my mother-in-law moved over, we all moved together, and within this whole area, we all lived together for about 25 years. So some of my little nephews grow up. They were homeschooled at my house, and I used to love go-kart racing and car racing. So they ended up doing racing with me. And through those years, they would always come over, and I used them as my critics.
Okay.
And the restaurant was struggling a little bit, but then we had Elmer Dills from Channel 7. I'm really aging myself here. And he came by, did a review with us, put us on Channel 7, and the restaurant took off. And it's been just really, really a great experience. We've had our bumps and bruises through the years with financial crisis and the pandemic and everything else like that. And we've made it this far, and I'm just grateful to be a part of the community where I feel that everywhere I go, someone will know me, I will know them, and it's always kind of a family feeling of being in town. And I can't say it enough how grateful I am to just be happy to live in such a terrific city. And I hope to continue for a few more years.
Gotcha. So in terms of the actual food, you kind of described the overall theme of it. What are some of your either recommendations for people that have never come here before to try out, or maybe some of the favorites that people come and order when they come here?
One of the favorites is the Apache quemado chicken breast.
Okay.
It's made with charred tomatillos, onions, cilantro, a little bit of soy, and I make it into a nice cream sauce over a grilled chicken. They are marinated with a little bit of citrus and tequila.
Okay.
That works out really well. The other ones that's really popular is the kale salad that we make with kale and a little bit of arugula. We do julienne, jicama, mango, red grapes, red bell peppers in a apple and rosemary and honey dressing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that just comes out really, really good. People seem to enjoy those things. The other ones that are real popular are our skirt steak tacos and our skirt steak quesadilla that I make with a chipotle flour tortilla, portobello mushrooms, sun-dried tomatoes, caramelized onions, a little bit of rosemary again, and then I tuck it in with some Mexican cheese, fold it over, stand it up, arugula made or dressed with a little bit of lime vinaigrette, and then some sliced mango on top. Then I have a jalapeno jelly around it, and then some guacamole sauce, and it just comes out delicious.
Okay, so it sounds like you have a lot of different spices and flavors within all your meals. This is not just going to and getting a quesadilla. You're getting a lot more than just a quesadilla when you come here. It's something that people probably haven't tasted before when you come and experience.
And that's
this food.
what our signature products are all about, is giving people the security. If you want a taco, you can get that taco. If you want a taquito, you can get that taquito, a cheese enchilada. But we always try to steer people into what I consider our real signature food items. And we constantly change the menu to reflect that. It would be pretty boring if I stayed with the same enchilada, taco, and burrito. They are real popular, but I noticed that a product like our skewers that are marinated in ginger, they just overwhelm the taste buds, and then we put them with a apricot orange marmalade. And again, that's something that we try to mix in with another product that we do, which is our wonton nachos made with wonton chips.
Yeah.
And then I make a cream cheese sauce, and then I add in beef barbacoa, a little bit of pickled habanero onions, sliced avocados, and a sour cream. It sounds a little kooky, but it gets even crazier. I sprinkle a little bit of blue cheese, and you mix those flavors together, and it's dynamite.
Okay.
And that's what I try to steer everybody.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been coming here for years, growing up with this place, and I haven't tried some of these dishes now, so I want to go back and explore the menu all over again just from you describing them. So it sounds like you don't only have the classics, you have a bunch of other things as well. You have a bar here too. So if people want to come out, I'm guessing watch the game, you have that going on.
Yes, we have about 92 different types of tequilas. We do a different assortment of exotic drinks. We have one that's super popular, which is cucumber and lavender, and a lime juice and tequila, and then a triple sec that is about an 80 proof that just makes it smooth and delicious, and it only takes one or two of them to make you feel real good. I love tequilas.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite, maybe what I would call bad habits, but I'll continue on with it.
Gotcha. So I know you also, just from my own personal experience, you also offer catering as well. So do you offer a similar menu for catering, or is that more of kind of a basic menu because you're making so much food?
Well, we limit our catering to what will last at an event.
Okay.
So typically we'll stay with some staples like the carnitas, the Apache chicken works well with that, the skewers, the tamales. Sometimes we do custom food where we'll do salmon or the skirt steak tacos on site or carne asadas. But for the most part, it's products that a tostada bar, taquitos, things that hold up really well and people are able to assemble themselves.
Okay. And so the final question I always like to ask guests on this show, and you've kind of alluded to it before, but what do you like most about having your business inside Yorba Linda?
It's really the companionship of the customer. The camaraderie that I get from all the guys that I go riding with, that I go racing with. We all kind of live in the city. The kids that were 3, 4, 5 years old and now they're in their 30s and they're having kids and they're bringing them in. It's something that it's truly a family within the city. I would never leave here. Even if I ended up retiring, I would stay in the city because I just know so many people that are just fantastic. I couldn't ask for a better place. Yeah,
and that seems to be a very common theme on this show with the businesses, is it feels like a small, tight-knit community, which in Orange County is hard to find around this area. So it's what draws a lot of people into this area.
It really does. During the pandemic, I felt so alone where I couldn't see them and I couldn't really talk with them. The deprivation was killing me. And when they let us reopen, I was just so happy that it just invigorated me to say, I'm going to continue doing this. I just love it.
Yep, if you were able to survive the pandemic portion of it, hopefully
it was
you're
tough.
able to survive anything. So it's been a little crazy these last couple of years. Well, George, thank you so much for coming on here, sharing a little bit about your story, about your restaurant. If you haven't tried out Blue Agave yet, please come check it out. They have a giant menu, something for everybody on here. So make sure you check them out today. George, thank you for joining me. And as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay happy, and we'll see you on the next show. Bye, everybody.